Well, what do you think about, but you have a unique personality where you're very optimistic. What do you think about the people that, there's more people, and if you talk to jiu-jitsu instructors, there's more people that quit or start classes than quit than stick around. So like, what do you think about like those? What has those people quit?
I believe it's lack of confidence.
Confidence in what?
Confidence of their ability. I think they constantly compare themselves to others.
Yeah.
Which it's comparison is a thief of all joy, and
Yeah.
I feel like that's where their intentions are not intentions. How do I say it? The reason why they're doing it is not for the right reason.
Yeah. Well, I think people get into it because they see something for themselves. Like the first time they come to class, they try and they see either, you know, like this is cool, or maybe I want some self-defense, or maybe I want like some work on my discipline or my physical fitness, and they see something for themselves, so they get started in it. But I think that for a lot of people vanishes really quickly because they fall into their own negative patterns and routines of however they self-sabotage in life. So like, so let's look at some of the people that start in jiu-jitsu and then quit, right? There are, like, you got the guy that is no confidence, right? And these guys that have no confidence and they think, oh, I want to try it. And then they come and then they get rolled up and they lose. And then they, you know, every day they come back and they, you know, they continue to lose. If that person doesn't start to gain confidence at some point pretty quickly, a lot of times that not having confidence pulls them out of the game. They won't show back up. It's like they're just being a pussy. They're scared.
Yes, sir.
Like, not to be fucked up about it, but it's the truth. You know, that there's a lot of people that are don't have the mental fortitude to continue to show up into a combat martial art. And I think even bigger than that, I think the majority of people out there that have thought about trying jiu-jitsu or wanted to try jiu-jitsu but never have, it's that thought, the thought of the unknown, or like, I'm going to get fucked up, or those guys are tougher than me, or I'm going to suck, or I got to be in better shape. I think that stops people more than even when they get in the door. I think once you're in the door and you take class and you're like, okay, it's just a bunch of dudes and the professor shows some moves and then you do the moves. And if you want to spar, you can. And if you don't, you don't have to. Nobody's forcing you to go down to that, like that, you know, that heavy fight for your life kind of scenario. Most of the time it's an that's why it's called the Jiu-Jitsu Academies. It's an educational experience. And so I've known more people that, one guy told me, that he came and parked in front of my building like 5 or 6 times over a period of 3 or 4 months, and was going to come in and ask about classes and then got too scared and then drove off.
That's insane. That's wild.
Yeah. And then you're like, oh, dude, if you would have just came in, you would already been like 6 months into your, like, getting your blue belt. You've been ready to get your blue belt. Like, you'd already be whooping everybody's ass, you know? So I think for you it's good, but I think for most people out there, they, you know, especially they're either too scared to start or they're scared of the unknown, but then that plays into life. So you look at those types of people that quit jiu-jitsu and look what they're doing with their life. Look how they handle their life. Like, jiu-jitsu is a long-term combat martial art that takes 10 to 15 years on average to earn a black belt in. And so that is that's like, oh, I'm going to go to college for years to get a bachelor's. Okay, that's a great commitment. That's an awesome commitment. But imagine if the commitment was 15 years. You know, what if you came and joined you're in the Air Force? What if you joined the Air Force and they were like, all right, minimum contract's 15 years? Like, I don't know if I'm doing that.
That would be tough.
Right?
Yes, sir.
So I think for a lot of people, it's really this fear to either get started and then once you get into it, definitely what you said, it's the comparison. Because then you start looking at either people you started with and going, well, that guy's, you know, submitting more people than me, or he's stronger than me, or maybe he's smaller than me. And like, why is he smaller than me, but he's controlling these other people better? Why am I losing to that person that he always beats? And so there's this whole like negative pathway of you know, this mindset of where like this comparison to other people or comparison to the instructor, like, you know, it's nuts. And then there's like, so people quit because of that. People quit, and then people quit at blue belt. Most people quit at blue belt. If you don't quit jiu-jitsu, if the white belt doesn't quit in the first like 5 to 10 classes, right, they will quit at blue belt. And because it takes so much. There's only 5 belts in traditional Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu: white, blue, purple, brown, and black. And on average, a blue belt is, white to blue in about a year. So, and in that year, you've been training 2, maybe 3 times a week. You've maybe done a competition, and you've rolled around a bunch and trained with your partners. And, rolling is like a fight without the strikes, and think of how many hours you've rolled in the past year. Like
a ton,
right?
Yes, sir.
And you haven't got your blue belt yet. And it's like, just to get to blue belt, and once they get blue belt, they're like, oh shit, like this is going to take a lot to get to purple, because this is a couple years to purple,
Yes, sir.
On average, a couple years to purple, and then you're at purple for a couple years. And so I think once people get to blue belt, they see that journey that's ahead of them. They're like, oh shit. That, or I think the quicker way to quit at blue belt is you get your blue belt and then you go, oh shit, because now you got a target on your back. Right? Oh, I'm going to hunt that blue belt. Fuck that blue belt up. Right? Got to get that blue belt. All the white belts are hungry like little sharks out there, little heathens, right? And I've noticed that there's blue belts out there that get that, what I call the upper belt syndrome, where it's like, I cannot be tapped by a lower belt. And so it fucks their whole game up, because now they're like, you come into the gym with the mindset of like, I can't be tapped by a lower belt, right? So you got these white belts and so one day you're a white belt, then you get promoted, right? So like on a Friday, you're a white belt, Saturday, now you're a blue belt, right? And then maybe one of your best training friends doesn't get promoted, right? But it's somebody that you always gives you a hard time, right? And he's still sitting at 4-stripe white, okay?
Yes,
and now you're wearing your blue belt, right? And people think that just because you're a blue belt means you shouldn't be getting tapped in anymore, especially not by white belts. That's not how this shit works,
Yes, sir.
Sorry about it. Like, look at, even now in sport jiu-jitsu, look at like Nicky Rod coming in at blue and fucking everybody up at ADCC black belts. You know what I mean? And now he's a purple, and he's just going to, he's a behemoth of a man, but you can see plenty of times where like a blue belt catches a black belt or something. There's always these cases. But for blue belts, on the average, your average every day, like show up to the gym, work, like they have a full-time job and maybe they have kids that come, now they're like, oh shit, I'm a blue belt, I can't get tapped. So their whole game gets turned to this thing of like, I'm going to, put myself in situations where I can't get tapped by him. Or what's worse is then it progresses, it gets significantly worse to where they're like, I'm going to avoid rolling with that guy.
Function out of fear.
Yeah, the whole thing. And there's like, I'm not going to roll with that guy, or I'm not going to, if he taps me, then they do that whole tap and teach thing.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Look, that shit's okay if it's your professor, but, or like even like if you have a brown belt coach or somebody's been coaching, right? If you tap them, right, most of the time, like if someone's tapping me, it's most of the time it's because I let you do the move on me, right? And you did it right, so I let you have it. If I think that with these blue belts, it's like, okay, you tap me, and now they're like, well, let me show you what you did wrong, or show you what you could do better, right? Or they're in a deep submission. I've had this, and this is very common too, and you'll see memes about this, where you're in a deep submission. Let's say you got a blue belt and you're a white belt and you got on his back and you're choking him, and he's like, what you should do here is adjust the collar up to get the choke, right? And then tries to talk you through the finish. Like, what the fuck are you doing, bro? Like, he should be fighting out of that. You know what I mean? Like, you're not the coach. You're not fucking around. Like, you should be trying to, you're in a bad spot. You got yourself in a bad spot, and now you're trying to like save your ego.
Try to work an escape or something.
Dude, get out. If you're such a badass blue belt that can teach, then get the fuck out of the choke. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Like, what are you doing, bro? So and then the other part I think that takes people out. So let's see, we talked about what, the confidence, right?
Yes, sir. Lack of confidence.
And being scared to even come in, right? Comparison, and then comparing to each other, and then getting your blue belt, right? And then as blue belt, it's either you don't want to get tapped by lower belts, or you're just scared of like the future because you got that war that you had to get to blue. You got to get to purple is like 3, 4, 5, 10, whatever. It could be 1,000 times worse, right? And I think besides all those, there's one that's like the worst that you were talking about earlier before we got on the podcast, which was like people's ego, that people have an overinflated, generally they have an overinflated sense of ability than what is actually in reality.
Yes, sir. That makes sense.
So like somebody will be like, you had a guy challenge you at the barracks or the dorms on the Air Force, right? And he was like, "Oh, I've trained," blah blah blah. But then you asked him what his favorite move was, and he said a guillotine, but did a rear naked choke.
Yes, sir. That was hilarious.
I mean, maybe I don't know. I don't know the guy. I wasn't there, so I can't really say too much. But you can tell if someone's trained or not. And so they think, "Oh, I'm," especially with men, especially with men, right? They're like, "Oh, I'm gonna, I think I could already kick your ass, more than," but they have no idea, and that's just because they look at you, and in their mind, they did the little Terminator assessment thing in their head where they're do 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 do, and it's like, "Okay, AJ, how tall are you?"
5'8".
5'8". How much do you weigh?
180.
180, right? And then it's winter here, so you're probably wearing some baggy clothes, right? So it doesn't look like you're like, maybe that muscular, but even though you lift all the time, Olympic lift all the time, and working out every single day that I talk to you, right?
Yes, sir.
And so this guy sees this little 5'8", 180-pound guy. He probably thinks it's probably like maybe 160 under all them jackets and shit, and is like, you know what? I could totally do that, dude. That dude's maybe he's taller than you, stronger, bigger, looks bigger than you, maybe weighs more, right? And in his head, it's like, I'm bigger, I'm the alpha male, I could dominate you, right? Maybe.
Yes,
I don't know. I've just been around, and I've been in the Army, and I know at jiu-jitsu gyms, I see this shit constantly, right? And it's in that guy's head is a false reality. It's a false narrative. And it's so sad. It's so sad. And that stops people from coming in because they believe that they're already badass, or they think they're going to do it. I don't see challenge matches happening anymore. Gracie challenge matches. If you guys don't know what a Gracie challenge match is and you're listening to this, the Gracie family that started jiu-jitsu used to go around and go to traditional martial arts schools, and they'd issue a challenge. It was for $10,000, and they'd say, they'd walk into like this school that said like, all right, I teach Kung Fu and I got a street lethal style of Kung Fu. They'd walk in there and say, in front of all their students on their busiest night, they'd go in there and say, look, I got 10 G's. I'll give you 10 G's if you can beat me in front of your students.
That's gangster.
And if not, you don't have to pay. If you win, I'll pay you 10 G's. But if I win, all I want to do is publish the tape. You don't have to pay me nothing. But he'd call him out in front of his students. So then what are you going to do?
You can't back down.
I mean, you could, but like if I'm standing there teaching our class, right, and some dude walks up in there and he's like, "You want to go to me?" Right, and he's like, I'll pay you 10 G's if you beat my ass, right? Who's not going to take that? Especially if you're believing your own self-assessment, your own skill. Like you think that is the street lethal style or whatever you have, right? And so then they started publishing these tapes, the Gracie in Action tapes. So they call them Gracie challenge matches. And that eventually turned into UFC. UFC 1 when the Gracie family started. So I've had that happen to me throughout the years, working at like martial arts gyms, working at jiu-jitsu gyms. And then when I opened my own, I've had people come in off the street and like, I'll fuck you up. Some guys just came in and just like started threatening me like a crazy person. Cause it's like, I don't know what they were doing in their crazy ass life. I don't know if they were like driving down the road or watching a YouTube video going like, oh shit, like I'm a badass, or listen to some motivational video. And like, I'm going to go in, you know what I did? I went down the street to that jiu-jitsu gym, my local jiu-jitsu gym, and I beat the shit out of that instructor. Like I'm a badass. I should be a black belt. I don't know if that's their thought process, but that's just what I'm assuming is going through their head. Cause I've had these guys come in for years. I had one guy come in Mansfield at Grace. Now it's Gracie Baja in Mansfield, but in my first gym, Champion Jiu-Jitsu, and he wanted to fight off the streets. And it's like, so I sign a waiver, Chris, because I'm not going to get sued, right?
Of course.
Now I'm older. I'm like, I'm not doing that. You can sign up. You want to fight me? You can pay me now. But like young, at the time I was still a purple belt, right? Young, mean, 23-year-old, 22-year-old Dylan, who's like CrossFitting all the time, is like had an ego. I mean, still have an ego. I'm still an asshole. Like, you guys are watching a show named after me. I have an ego, right? All right. But I'm there and I'm like, I'm going to fuck this dude up, and I would fuck him up. And I'd be like, all right, now sign up. And he would not come back, because they don't come back after they've been embarrassed in front of a room full of 40 people watching them just get their ass kicked. And then every time you see this, and you can watch YouTube videos of it, they say it's a fluke. I swear to God, they come up and they're like, oh, one more time. Even on the Gracie in Action tapes, you guys can type in Gracie in Action and go watch these old school tapes. They used to be on VHS. Some were black and white, some were real grainy. And they got some colored ones, and you can watch them on YouTube for like free. I think you can even buy the old DVDs if you want. But you can watch them, and like these black belts will get up and be like, oh, it was a fluke. Let me do it again. Is there a fucking fluke in a real street fight? Like, do you get go-overs or whatever you call them. What do you call them?
A redo.
Redo.
Rematch.
Yeah, you're getting redos. This isn't like Call of Duty. We're not respawning, you know? No. So it's like, and they would do it, and then they would fuck him up 3 or 4 times, and then the guy goes like, oh shit, like it starts dawning on him that he sucks. His idea in his head does not match reality. And that is so common because you talk about that guy that's like, I'm going to fuck you up and I think he probably had a little alcohol in him, right?
Yeah, I still don't understand where the motive came from within him. And he had that liquor confidence going on in him. And
liquor confidence, that's good.
Yes, sir. It definitely caught me by surprise, and I didn't expect it coming from him.
But what an insane mindset that's what, and I get that you're looking at young adult male, I'm guessing he is.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I mean, all these guys trying to prove themselves or be the dominant, the alpha male. So I think people won't even come to jiu-jitsu gyms because they already think they're the shit. They already think they know it all. And I think that's a lot in life. That's where people assume that they know better, because most people think that what they're doing in life is right, or how they live their life, that theirs is the right way. That's why everybody's opinionated, you know? And until someone can like shake you like a Etch-a-Sketch, or I don't know what would be a good reference for younger fucking people, but like wake you up, like shake you to wake you up and go like, bro, you don't know anything about combat martial arts. You have no idea. You have no idea. And then you have no idea what the other side of it is. Like, you're talking about all this stuff you've gotten out of. You got great friends. You've gotten great life advice. You know, you've gotten camaraderie. You've gotten into shape. You looked and you get to pick the brains of all this, you know, wide variety of people. And we're out here in Germany teaching right now with Air Force personnel. So even then it's small. Wait till you get to a jiu-jitsu gym where you're rolling with one guy and he's an electrician. You roll with the next guy and he's a doctor, you know, and the next guy's a cop, and this guy's a neurosurgeon, and this guy's a lawyer. And then you get to hang out with these guys, and you guys maybe go, you know, you have these guys that are like, oh, this guy's a congressman. And you're like, oh, and you know, he's wearing a suit and tie. And then on Saturday night, you're at his house watching the UFC, like, fuck that dude up, bro. Let's get him, you know?
That's badass. You network out of it.
You network, and you have these people that can offer these insights into your life that are therapeutic. And that's just like one tiny sliver of the beauty of jiu-jitsu, of what it offers in the community. But for your own self, you get this spiritual growth. And then once you figure out that you can dominate and fuck up people 3, 4, 5 times their size, you know, using technique, not even fucking get out of breath, and dominate them. And if they have no training, it's like a cheat code. You know, there's like, how much more could you ask for? And that's what's missing. And so what happens, it's so sad, because you'll see these guys start in jiu-jitsu. The worst is people that start and then quit. Those are the hardest for me. Like the people that have too big of an ego to come in and don't come in, I don't ever have to see them. You know, I may talk to the dude somewhere in life, but I don't have to like, he's like, oh, I thought about doing martial arts. No. You know, like, that's fine, dude. I don't care. But it's the people that start, or for me, it's like the little guys that start, or the females that start and then give up, right at the beginning, or right when they get their blue belt, because something transforms for everybody where they eventually get good. You stay long enough, you will be good. Trust me. I mean, I've had some real duds of students. No offense. Okay. Probably not talking about you, but I have some real duds that everything I taught to, I'm like, oh, God, fuck. He's not getting it. Let me show it again. Right. And, you know, just not clicking, but we're consistent twice a week, years. And those duds eventually turned into like, okay, that dude will fuck you up now.
Dud to stud.
Yeah. Dud to stud. We should call that. We should make that a shirt. The dud to stud shirt.
That'd be sweet.
Hey, didn't we match on Tinder?
What?